Europe and India have decided on an FTA, which is being dubbed as mother of all deals. What does this mean for the people of Europe and India, and how will this strategically change the lives but also businesses between these countries? Joining us live and exclusive here in India is the Ambassador of Austria to India, Ambassador Robert Zischg. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for joining us. Let me begin by asking you on the mother of all deals. That has been the talking point over the last 2 weeks. How does this strategically change lives of the people? Because we are talking also about a time when there's global turbulence. There are economic policies that are changing through global tariffs. People are diversifying on trade, buying oil, etc. But when it comes to the 27-member EU bloc in India, how is this going to transform things?
Well, let me first of all point out that this deal has been 18 years in the making. It's really the mother of all deals. It's a very complicated agreement which was concluded on the occasion of the visit of van der Leyen, Costa and Kaja Kallas. And it will really take quite some time until it is implemented. But I mean, it will affect close to 2 billion people. It's companies, but it's of course affecting each and every citizen.
It is affecting every citizen. But when it comes to the businesses, let me also ask you about the kind of ratification that it has to go through. The announcement happened and there was a lot of cheer all around. But could you explain for the people that what kind of a ratification does it require, the legal scrubbing that will happen now, and perhaps it could take from 6 months to a year? Are you actually aiming to implement it within 2026? Is that the aim?
Well, at least officially, the aim is to conclude it in 2026, which could give you simply a clear signal that we're not only talking about the conclusion of that agreement, but really implementing it and also bringing it to the people. On the other hand, of course, it is, as I explained, a complicated agreement, and the so-called legal scrapping simply serves as going through a long text and see what how the political commitments have been translated in legal language. For us, for example, it also means that it needs to be translated in all the 24 languages of the European Union, which also will require quite some time. And as it is a legal text, I mean, every word is important, because if it is implemented, it is law, applicable in 27 countries. And then, of course, it needs the ratification of all the member states, and we are 27 member states. So even that, the legislative process each and everywhere will take some time. But at least the political aim is to conclude it within this year.
We spoke about the ratification. Let's also focus now on the win-win situation that both the leaderships of EU and India have spoken about. Now, Indian Prime Minister says that manufacturing will get a huge boost here in India. There's a slogan, Make in India, that the Prime Minister loves and speaks about very often. Similarly, the kind of cut in the duties of the high-end EU cars is massive. I spoke recently to the CEO and president of BMW, who was cheering for it. He said it will impact only 5% of the imports that are coming in, but still it means a huge change. How would you see in this particular sector the cars, but also overall, for instance, the Austrian wine that could now be easily accessible to the Indians?
Well, I mean, cars, I guess, are those products which are popular in each and every country. And independent, of the number of cars which are imported or exported, it is a key industry, because it's not only the cars, it's the automotive sector, the supply chain which is behind it. So it's also a very important economic factor. So cars are very dear also to many Austrians. They love cars, and they pay actually quite a high price for cars as compared to other goods. And as regards wine, I mean, being new in that country 1 month into my current office, and if I may say, enjoying my life really enormously here in that country, really very dynamic. But I was quite surprised to learn how high the tariffs on wine are. And we are a wine producing country, high quality wine in fairly large quantities as well, which we export everywhere, but those heavy tariffs, I mean, are impediment to trade. So I guess we can expect a huge boost of the exports of Austrian wine, and I think that Indian consumers will love it.
The wine, the cheese, and the cars. It is the best combination, really, Ambassador. But what are the key sectors when it comes to Austria? focusing on India, be it medical devices, be it fintech, be it, other sectors like green hydrogen. There's a lot of focus here in India on green hydrogen also. The cars are changing, the makes are changing, and we are focusing on things that are sustainable in many ways. So what are the top priority sectors when it comes to Austria here in India?
Well, normally our main export products is machinery in the widest sense possible. Okay. I see that, especially under the government of Prime Minister Modi, the infrastructure sector is really booming, airports, rails, streets, roads are built, at a level in which is unimaginable in Austria and also, of course, in whole of Europe. Yeah. So this is a large segment of our economy, which I would assume will benefit enormously. But, we are present in almost all the sectors. So I would not even limit it to one. We have seen a very constant growth of our exports and also investments here in India over the past years. And also quite surprised, we are relatively small. Compared to India, we are a small country. Normally I say we're a medium-sized country. Yeah. About the high number of Austrian subsidiaries here. So we are already heavily investing here. We've got 160 Austrian companies already operative here. And already in January, we already 2 openings of new plants here, and we go to the opening of 2 other plants in March. So there's hardly any month where there's not the opening of an Austrian company here.
Ambassador Zischg, while we are speaking about India-Austria ties, let me ask you, recently, or maybe sometime back, we had the Indian Prime Minister visit Austria. There was a lot of color, a lot of happy faces out there, and that was the first visit in over 40 years. Could we expect the top leadership of Austria also visiting India? Any high-level delegations that are on cards? What are you working around now on?
Well, we will have, that is already confirmed, the visit of our State Secretary for Digitalization, who will attend the AI Summit in 2 weeks' time, and actually will not only be here in Delhi, but also go to Bangalore. And then we are really working, and I cannot disclose the details right now because still in the making, but a really high-ranking, very high-ranking visit from Austria in a very few months.
Well, that's good to hear. Europe often speaks about de-risking and supply chain resilience. And when we speak about the big elephant in the room, and that is China, from India's standpoint or from the Europe standpoint, how much of strategic dependence on China remains now? And is Europe increasingly also looking at diversifying? And that's why we see the India-EU trade deal.
Well, I think that the rapid conclusion now of the India-EU free trade agreement is, say, the consequence of that multipolarity which we are witnessing over the past 1 to 2 years. That partners whom we thought are really very reliable are not that strong partners anymore. Some partners are very difficult, and one should not simply forget that India is not only the largest country in the world, it's the largest democracy. Mm-hmm. So this is also a reason why Europe and Austria is looking very closely towards India. And I guess when I have seen our leaders at the Republic Day and at the summit, a real partnership was forged, not only at a professional level, but also on a personal level.
Now to a more serious subject that's been the last 4 years of the Russia-Ukraine war. There's been a lot of chatter about the NATO and the role of the NATO and how Ukraine wants to be part of this setup. How do you see the development now with Donald Trump, trying to restore some kind of peace, but that still seems to be a far-fetched dream with Russia not really coming to the table. There are a lot of death and destruction that is still happening in Ukraine. How does Austria look at India's role also in this direction?
Let me first point out the war, Russian aggression against the Ukraine is not just about the Ukraine. It's about the whole security architecture of Europe, how Europe will be shaped also politically and from the security point of view in the future. And what I, as Austrian ambassador, always underline, the border to the Ukraine from Vienna is 600 kilometers. Mm-hmm. So it is really geographically very close. Secondly, the war on the Balkans in the 90s. We all thought, and I was, including with all of my colleagues in the foreign ministry all over the world, we thought these were the last wars on European soil. Right. And since February 22, that view was really shattered. So this is a conflict which is really not only dear to our heart, it is a question also of survival of a big country. And we are really hoping, that, and we are still hoping, you always need to remain optimistic, that this conflict can be resolved very soon. As regards India, which is a big player, and we're actually quite grateful for that in this multipolar system, we would simply expect, of course, and we are actually witnessing it, that clear understanding that the rules of international law still are relevant today. We are a small country, and we have been in our past, we have been occupied by Soviet troops for more than 10 years, like Germany was. And the Iron Curtain ran through, or actually at the eastern part of our country. So we have experienced for 45 years what repression really meant. So this is why for our own survival, the rule of law is important. Otherwise, smaller countries, they need to be scared in the future. They will be manipulated, and this is not the way we thought, say, the world is going into a more peaceful, more prosperous one. So we see a little bit of a setback right now, and this is a conflict. But as it's usually said, every conflict in the past has come to an end.
Yes.
And we very much hope that this conflict will also come to an end soon. And we will, of course, also hope that India, as an important player, when the time arises, also assists in really forging that sort of compromise. And one last thing, which is simply important, one cannot speak about the conflict in the Ukraine without the Ukraine. Of course, this is the country which is mostly affected, and we as Austria and the European Union will, of course, do or listen to what the Ukrainian leadership wants. They are the masters of their own game, understandably so. So it seems a little bit there is some movement right now, but we have already been optimistic a number of times in the past. But I think, sooner or later, and hopefully sooner, this conflict will also come to an end.
Well, as they say, it's easier to begin a conflict but difficult to end it, if we have learned anything out of the last 4 or 5 years. But Ambassador, an India-US trade deal has also been announced. We do not know the technical details yet, but Trump has said that India has agreed to completely stop buying the Russian oil. Do you welcome this, or would you cautiously be optimistic and wait for the final details?
Well, we always wait for the final details, especially what President Trump is announcing, and if there is a follow-up to that. Of course, from our point of view, we would welcome a reduction of imports of Russian oil to India, because it's still, a source of income, and which simply helps to finance the war in the Ukraine, and this is why we have imposed sanctions against the Russian Federation. Also, this is actually the only peaceful means which we can apply to bring an end to the war, or at least push the Russian Federation and President Putin to really forge a compromise.
Another bone of contention, Ambassador, has been the Greenland issue, especially post what we saw in Venezuela. Maduro being literally taken out, kidnapped from there, and now he stands trial in New York. But how has the situation in Greenland and the statements of Donald Trump and the Trump administration affected, the security situation when it comes to Europe? Do you think there is much more unity, a united stand? And does this threat loom large even today? Even though Donald Trump has said that, he will not, militarily act now, but perhaps buy Greenland. How do you see the situation?
Well, if anybody had said that 5 years ago that the United States would possibly even invade Greenland and want to have it as the 51st state of the United States, everybody would have laughed. Nowadays, we have seen that even things which we deemed and regarded as impossible are possible nowadays. Of course, Denmark is a member of NATO, United States is a member of NATO, Austria is not a member of NATO, we're still a neutral country, but so from the outside, it's quite an odd picture, that one NATO country wants to invade another NATO country, or at least issues a serious threat to that extent. And of course, as I said, we had this long-standing transatlantic relationship and partnership, which was very strong. And I still think among people and many politicians, this still is very strong. But of course, I mean, always seeing the positive side of things, and that was also a complaint launched against the European Union, and rightly so from the United States under previous administrations, is that of course we ourselves need to do more with regard to our own defense. We cannot simply rely on the United States in intervening by force in other conflicts and don't pay, you know, the adequate share. And I mean, and that's a little bit, you know, the area within the European Union, which I guess we will now, as a consequence of the latest developments, we need to be not only, we have said that many times, we need to be more self-reliant and invest more, but I guess now we really see we need to do it, and we're already doing it. Unfortunately, this is something I guess we should not regard as a natural development, and also as a positive factor that we actually increase our defense budgets.
Right.
So we should invest in education, we should invest in health, in many other areas. Investing in defense, you know, this is, we need to do, as we need sometimes have an insurance, but on the other hand, we would be happy, you know, to invest that money into other sectors.
One last question, Ambassador, and this is about people-to-people connectivity. As I said, when Prime Minister visited, we saw a lot of Austrians invested in India, from Indology to innovation, from science and technology to different other sectors as well. The visa regime in Europe has been a cause of concern for Indians, not just because of the lengthy processes and documentation, etc., but also because Indians are very eager to travel. We are a nation that travels a lot, especially towards Europe. Are we going to see some changes when it comes to mobility, when it comes to students going to Austria and other European countries to travel? A lot of people going there to work as well.
Yes, I mean, this is one of the very positive developments which I see in the relations between India and Austria. In particular with regard to our technical universities who have concluded the memorandum of understanding last June. And the aim is to bring Indian students to Austria in, for us, relatively high numbers. We now have 1,500 Indian students at Austrian universities. And I'm very confident that we see many more, not only for study, but also for research and also for the Austrian labor market. Our Austrian companies are really looking for a good and young talent, especially in the area of the future with regard to digitalization, artificial intelligence, because when everybody knows, our university also testify to that. I mean, the preparedness of Indian students, you know, to really delve into a completely new world, and they're really very good students, you know, everybody is very, very happy with them. As regards that thorny question of migration, immigration, visa regimes, the Austrian embassy here in Delhi is the embassy right now which has the most visa application with 57,000 per year. And as I said, we are a relatively small country, so it's a really huge number. We would actually wish to see that number going down because we do not need visas anymore. So I guess that should be the medium long-term goal. And this is unfortunately, you know, migration of people means there are all sorts of people, you know, and there, of course, there's one segment who wants to enter our territory irregularly. For understandable reasons, because living conditions, if I look at Africa, for which I was responsible the past 4 years, there are very good economic reasons why people leave their country and have to leave their country. On the other side, to balance it against, of course, businesses traveling to Austria and students going to Austria, and simply tourists, you know, and I just understand that number of Indian tourists to Austria has also soared in the past year, and actually we're expecting 10,000 more applications this year, which we are trying to process. And with regard to the students, for the students, we are already working on really streamlining and accelerating the process. It will be, and this is not, say, say not that positive much. It will be still remain cumbersome. Every visa regime is cumbersome, but we would like to, and we will make it as quick as possible. And we, with that program, which we have just initiated, I guess there's sort of a fast track which we can then provide, and that would not be any impediment for Indian students going to Austria.
Well, let's hope that this is a mutually beneficial visa regime that happens between India and Austria. People should travel much more. But if I can add towards the end, Ambassador, you've been here for a month in India. Are you enjoying it? How are you? What are you looking forward to? Are you enjoying your morning jogs in India?
Well, I'm enjoying many things, you know. I should not say it too loudly, you know, because otherwise back home they think I'm here on vacation. To the contrary, I've been really very busy right from the start of my assignment here on the 5th of January. I was very happy to hand over my credentials right on the 14th of January to President Murmu. I was at the Jaipur festival. I was at QS summit in Goa last weekend. We will have the AI summit coming up. So it is really very exciting. That keeps me busy. But coming to the running, you know, after we will have concluded our interview, I will change clothes, you know, and do 3 loops in Nanero Park.
Oh, wonderful. Such an amazing conversation, Ambassador. Thank you very much for joining NDTV. Well, that was the Austrian Ambassador to New Delhi, Robert Zischg, speaking in detail about the India-Austria ties, but the top priority, the India-EU mother of all deals, now being politically declared, and now the ratification is required for the final implementation. That will bring the EU 27 member bloc and India together. But India and Austria, Vienna and New Delhi also looking towards a new partnership with perhaps a high-level delegation led by Chancellor could be visiting India in 2026. Reporting from Delhi, this is Aditya Kaul for NDTV.